Do you ever feel like people's words, their judgments, or even their betrayal has the power to disturb your peace? Today, we are going to uncover the exact mindset that makes you untouchable, so that nothing and nobody can affect you again. The greatest chains that bind a man are not made of iron, but of the eyes of others. We live in a world where people do not need to strike your body to wound you. They only need to whisper about you, to question you, to spread a shadow over your name. And like a flame exposed to the wind, you flicker. You allow yourself to be shaped by what they see, what they say, and what they think. This is the root of your weakness. The judgments of others enter you like poison, leaving you restless, defensive, and shaken. If you wish to rise above this weakness, you must cut the strings that make you dance in the hands of others. Nothing and nobody will affect you again, only when you understand one truth: perception is the battlefield. And on that battlefield, the one who commands appearance commands power. Master perception: a man is not judged by what he truly is. He is judged by what others believe him to be. The world does not care about your inner truth, your hidden virtues, or your private struggles. It only cares about the mask you wear. The weak believe that authenticity will protect them. They expose their fears, they confess their doubts, they make their pain visible, and in doing so, they hand over their throat to anyone willing to cut it. The strong understand that appearances must be controlled like soldiers in an army. Disciplined, precise, and obedient to strategy. To master perception is to build an image so deliberate that others cannot see past it. You must not wander through life hoping people will see you as you wish. You must force them to. You must decide what impression you leave in every room, every glance, every word. This is not vanity, it is survival. A lion that appears sick is attacked by scavengers. A man that appears uncertain is devoured by rivals. Your face must become a mask. Anger, fear, despair, keep them buried. Never let your enemy see a crack in your surface. When you are insulted, do not show injury. When you are betrayed, do not reveal pain. When you are uncertain, walk as if your steps are carved into stone. Even when you suffer, let your eyes remain steady. Others do not read your heart, they read your expression, and in that reading, they decide whether you are prey or predator. The power of perception lies in this. It transforms weakness into strength. Imagine two men with the same doubts in their hearts. One wears his doubt on his face, and all who look upon him sense hesitation. The other hides his doubt behind calm silence, and all who look upon him believe he knows more than he reveals. Which of these two is followed, respected, feared? Not the man who is honest about his weakness, but the man who hides it so well that others call it confidence. Controlling perception also means mastering the art of timing. Do not reveal yourself fully to anyone at once. Allow people to see fragments of you, carefully chosen fragments that guide their imagination. Let them think they know you, while in truth they only see what you allow. If you want them to respect you, display your strength at the moment it has the greatest impact. If you want them to underestimate you, hide your abilities until they reveal theirs first. Perception is not static, it is a weapon you shape to fit the situation. Understand also that silence itself is a form of perception. When you speak too much, you bleed information, and people read weakness between your words. But when you hold back, when you leave things unsaid, when your gaze lingers longer than your reply, others begin to imagine that you know more than you say. Their imagination fills the silence with power. Silence, controlled well, is one of the strongest illusions a man can project. But perception is not only about strength, it is also about unpredictability. A man who is too consistent becomes predictable, and a predictable man can be manipulated. Keep your image steady, but not transparent. Let there be mystery. Do not let others calculate your every reaction. When they think you will be angry, remain calm. When they think you will be silent, speak a single devastating word. When they believe they understand you, show them a side they never expected. Mystery breeds fear, and fear breeds respect. And yet, the greatest mastery of perception comes not in battle with others, but in battle with yourself. The hardest enemy to defeat is your own impulse to show too much. You want to defend yourself when slandered, but silence would be stronger. You want to show your pain when betrayed, but composure would be more powerful. You want to speak when accused, but restraint would serve you better. Those who cannot master their own impulse can never master how others see them. Discipline begins within, and once it is achieved, the outside world bends to it. To live without being affected by others is to understand this law: you do not control their tongues, but you can control their eyes. You cannot silence gossip, but you can silence doubt with the image you project. You cannot erase betrayal, but you can erase the satisfaction of seeing you broken. When you control what others perceive, you seize the battlefield. And on that battlefield, it does not matter what is true, only what is seen. Detach emotions. A man who cannot rule his own emotions will forever be ruled by others. Nothing exposes weakness faster than a face twisted with rage, a voice trembling with sadness, or eyes that betray fear. The world is full of predators disguised as companions, and predators look for openings. They do not strike the strongest armor, they strike the softest flesh. When you bleed emotionally, you show them exactly where to cut. That is why, to remain untouchable, you must master detachment. Detachment is not the absence of feeling. It is the art of control. Emotions will still surge within you, but they must never escape uncontrolled. You may feel anger, but you must wear calm. You may feel sorrow, but your eyes must remain steady. You may feel fear, but your posture must remain unshaken. To detach is to build a wall between your inner storms and the world outside. The storm may rage, but none may see it. Consider betrayal. Most men, when betrayed, display their pain openly. They confront, they accuse, they break down. And in that moment, their enemy wins twice. Once with the act of betrayal, and again with the spectacle of their suffering. But the detached man gives no such satisfaction. He registers the betrayal, he files it into memory, and he carries on without a visible crack in his armor. His silence is heavier than an outburst. His composure is sharper than any scream. Those who betrayed him begin to fear, because they cannot measure his reaction. They wonder when the retaliation will come, how it will come, or if it has already begun. His detachment becomes a weapon sharper than revenge itself, or take insult. The common man is provoked by words, his pride so fragile that a single phrase can ignite his fury. This reaction amuses his enemies and empowers his rivals. But the detached man does not flinch. Insults thrown at him fall into silence. His eyes remain calm, his demeanor unmoved. The insulter becomes uneasy, for words lose their power when they do not penetrate. The crowd observing feels the shift. Who looks stronger, the man shouting desperately, or the one who absorbs the attack without a ripple? Detachment transforms insult into humiliation for the attacker, not the target. Detachment also protects against manipulation. People who wish to control you will pull at your emotions first. They flatter you to make you lower your guard. They provoke you to make you careless. They appeal to your pity to make you generous against your own interest. The man who cannot detach is a puppet, pulled by strings of flattery, anger, or sympathy. But the detached man cuts the strings before they are tied. He listens, but does not react. He observes, but does not leap. He acknowledges emotion, but he acts only when it suits him. In this way, he remains the master, never the servant of someone else's design. To achieve such detachment requires discipline. It is not natural for men to restrain themselves. Instinct tells you to fight when angry, to cry when wounded, to tremble when afraid. But instinct belongs to animals. Power belongs to those who can chain their instincts and release them only at the precise moment of choice. This discipline is forged through constant practice. Each time you resist the urge to react, each time you hold back when provoked, each time you conceal your feelings when they claw at your throat, you strengthen your command over yourself. Slowly, emotion ceases to master you, and you begin to master it. Detachment is not coldness, though it may appear so. It is strategy. A detached man can still love, but he does not collapse when love is betrayed. He can still trust, but he does not crumble when trust is broken. He can still fight, but his fight is chosen, not triggered by insult. Detachment does not kill passion, it guides passion into chosen paths. The fire still burns, but it is contained in a furnace, directed with purpose, never spilling wild to consume its master. And yet, Detachment carries a second power: it unsettles others. People expect visible emotion. They expect anger after an insult, sorrow after loss, fear when threatened. When these reactions do not appear, it unsettles them. They feel as though they are dealing with someone not bound by the same rules as themselves. They project onto you strength greater than you possess, because they cannot measure your true state. In their uncertainty, they hesitate, and in hesitation, you find advantage. Even allies will treat you differently when you master detachment. They will respect you more, for respect grows when control is evident. They will measure their words more carefully, for they cannot predict how much you have seen or understood. They will rely on your steadiness, because in crisis, the detached man remains calm while others collapse into chaos. Detachment makes you a pillar among the wavering, a figure to be watched, followed, or feared. Detachment does not mean passivity. It does not mean that you accept every insult or tolerate every betrayal. It means that you choose your responses with cold calculation rather than heated impulse. The detached man may strike, but he strikes at the time of his choosing, not when provoked. He may punish, but he punishes when it gains him the most, not when his emotions demand release. This is why detachment is not weakness, but ultimate strength: the power to act without being acted upon, the power to command oneself so completely that no external force can command him. Silence as armor. Words are the cheapest form of currency, yet they are spent more recklessly than gold. Men empty themselves in speech, exposing thoughts, fears, and desires to anyone who listens. In their hunger to be heard, they reveal more than they intend. Every confession, every argument, every protest is a thread that others can seize and pull until the entire garment unravels. Silence denies them this weapon. Silence is not emptiness. It is armor, it is control, it is power. When you speak, you give the world a map of your mind. They learn what you value by what excites your tongue. They learn your wounds by what provokes your defense. And they learn your ignorance by what questions leave you fumbling for words. The more you speak, the more predictable you become, and predictability is weakness. But silence leaves no map, no pattern, no certainty. A silent man forces others to guess, and in guessing, they reveal more of themselves than he ever does. In conflict, silence is sharper than shouting. When insulted, most men rush to defend themselves with a flood of words, thinking they prove strength. In truth, they only prove that the insult has pierced them. Their words confirm the wound. But the man who remains silent gives no confirmation. He allows the insult to hang in the air, unanswered, and it dies in its own echo. The insulter grows uneasy, realizing his weapon has missed its mark. Observers sense that the silent man is too strong, too secure, or too calculating to waste words. His silence transforms the insult from a weapon into a mirror that reflects weakness back upon the attacker. In negotiation, silence is a blade hidden beneath the table. When you speak too quickly, you surrender leverage. You reveal eagerness, desperation, or fear, but silence unsettles the other side. They speak to fill the void, they over-explain, they reveal concessions before you even demand them. A pause, a long gaze, a refusal to rush. The silence works on them more effectively than argument. They begin negotiating with themselves, offering more than they should, while you remain shielded, revealing nothing. Among allies, silence creates weight. A man who speaks constantly becomes background noise. His words lose value because they are too abundant. But the man who speaks rarely, who chooses words like a general chooses battles, commands attention. When he finally does speak, all ears turn toward him. His silence has forged scarcity, and scarcity breeds value. Thus, silence does not diminish influence. It multiplies it. Silence is also the shield of the strategist. When plans are concealed, when intentions are hidden, enemies cannot prepare their defenses. The man who speaks of his goals before they are achieved invites sabotage, envy, and opposition. But the man who cloaks his ambitions in silence advances unseen, like a shadow in the night. By the time his enemies recognize his design, it is already too late to stop him. Words would have warned them, silence leaves them blind. Consider how silence shapes perception. People cannot endure not knowing. When faced with silence, they begin to imagine, and imagination is often more powerful than reality. If you are silent after an accusation, they imagine you are above the need to respond. If you are silent after a betrayal, they imagine you are planning retribution. If you are silent after an offer, they imagine you are weighing greater options. Their minds fill the silence with their own fears, their own doubts, their own desires. You have given nothing, yet gained influence, because imagination works in your favor, while words would have limited you. Silence is not cowardice, it is restraint. It requires greater strength to withhold words than to unleash them. The weak man blurts out his thoughts to relieve himself of their burden. The strong man holds them, carries them, and releases them only when they serve his purpose. Every word you do not speak is a weapon that remains sheathed, polished, and ready for the precise moment it can cut deepest. But silence is not merely defensive, it is offensive in its effect. People grow restless in the presence of silence. They feel judged, they feel uncertain, they feel compelled to break it. They begin to reveal themselves, filling the void with confessions, excuses, or nervous chatter. In this way, silence draws information out of others while keeping your own sealed. It is an invisible hand that pushes them into exposing more than they intended. The discipline of silence must be cultivated deliberately. It is not natural to restrain speech, for men crave recognition and fear misunderstanding. They feel the urge to correct every slight, to explain every thought, to fill every gap. But mastery comes in resisting this urge. When you hold your tongue while others waste theirs, you build an advantage that compounds over time. Each unspoken word is energy preserved, mystery created, and power retained. Silence can even cloak emotion. When others cannot hear your protests, when they cannot read your explanations, they are left uncertain whether you are wounded or unaffected. This uncertainty is more powerful than any spoken defense. A man who is accused and argues shows concern. A man who is accused and remains silent shows indifference, and indifference is the ultimate form of superiority. The greatest rulers, leaders, and tacticians understood that words, once spoken, cannot be reclaimed. They echo, they spread, they are twisted, and they become chains. But silence leaves no trail. It cannot be quoted, it cannot be misused, it cannot be turned against you. In silence, you remain untouchable, because nothing exists for others to grasp. The world cannot strike what it cannot see, and silence makes you invisible even in plain sight. Guarded distance, the greatest mistake a man can make, is to allow others full access to his mind, his heart, or his life. Familiarity breeds contempt, and proximity weakens authority. The more someone sees of you, the more they begin to believe you are like them, subject to the same fears, the same impulses, the same weaknesses. What was once respected becomes ordinary. What was once admired becomes doubted, and what was once feared becomes mocked. To protect yourself from being diminished in the eyes of others, you must maintain guarded distance. Guarded distance is not isolation, nor is it cold rejection of the world. It is the deliberate control of how close others are allowed to approach. You may share moments. You may allow conversations. You may permit friendship, but always within boundaries that you decide. When you give yourself entirely, when you open every door, you hand others the keys to your destruction. When you allow them only what you choose, you retain mastery over how much of you can ever be touched. The ones who fall most easily are those who trust blindly, who pour themselves out to others without restraint. They mistake intimacy for loyalty, and they confuse honesty with strength. They believe that sharing their whole self will inspire devotion, when in truth it often inspires betrayal. For once someone knows your secrets, your doubts, your desires, they possess leverage over you. They may not wield it at once, but they hold it in reserve, waiting for the moment when using it will profit them most. To give this power away is to surrender your defenses willingly. Distance denies this possibility. When others know only fragments of you, when your inner self remains veiled, they cannot strike at the core of your being. They may attempt betrayal, but they will strike only at shadows, never at substance. They may try to wound, but their knives will slide across armor rather than sink into flesh. Guarded distance ensures that no one ever possesses the full map of your vulnerabilities. Consider how distance preserves authority. A leader who spends too much time with his followers, who jokes freely, who exposes his doubts, will soon find himself treated as equal. Once he is seen as equal, his commands lose their weight, his presence loses its power. Respect is not born of constant exposure, it is born of controlled scarcity. When a leader appears rarely, speaks carefully, and maintains separation, every word he speaks carries weight. His presence itself becomes an event, his absence a source of speculation. Guarded distance transforms him into a figure of greater stature than his actual size. Distance also protects from envy. Those closest to you see your advantages most clearly. They see your talents, your resources, your strengths. If you allow them too much closeness, they begin to resent what they cannot possess. They begin to plot against what they cannot equal. Yet when you maintain distance, your strengths remain partly hidden, your advantages partly concealed. They may sense your power, but they cannot measure it fully, and what cannot be measured cannot easily be envied or attacked. Even in personal bonds, guarded distance is essential. Love, friendship, and trust are not excuses to surrender yourself completely. The more you reveal, the more others begin to feel entitled to your every thought, your every secret. What begins as devotion turns into expectation, and expectation breeds disappointment. By maintaining distance, you preserve mystery. You remain partly unknown, partly unreachable, and this keeps others drawn toward you rather than exhausted by overexposure. Mystery sustains attraction, while overfamiliarity breeds contempt. Guarded distance also provides freedom. When you give yourself too openly to others, you become tied to their judgment and their expectations. They believe they know who you are. They expect you to remain consistent with the self you revealed. But when you keep distance, you remain free to change, to adapt, to evolve. Others cannot confine you to the image they hold because you never gave them enough to define you fully. In distance, you retain the ability to move unseen and to transform without being bound by their perception. Practical distance is built through control of access. You may let others into your circle, but never into your core. You may share a thought, but never the whole plan. You may reveal an emotion, but never the depth of it. You may allow closeness in moments, but never in permanence. Each interaction must be measured, each intimacy limited, not because you despise others, but because you understand the danger of being entirely known. To maintain this guarded distance, you must first master your own desire for connection. The need to be understood, the need to be accepted, the need to share. These impulses are natural, but they are dangerous. They make you offer too much, too quickly. Discipline teaches you to hold back, to enjoy connection without surrender, to allow closeness without exposure. The true art of guarded distance lies in appearing open enough to satisfy others, while secretly keeping your inner walls intact. Distance unsettles people. They will try to push closer, to break your walls, to demand more of you than you give. They may even accuse you of coldness, of secrecy, of arrogance. This is proof that your strategy is working, for when they cannot penetrate your inner self, they grow restless. They begin to reveal their own need, their own insecurity, their own desperation for validation. In this reversal, you gain power. While they struggle to know you, you stand secure in the knowledge that they have already shown more of themselves than you ever will. Iron will the world bends only for those who refuse to bend. Men are broken not by enemies, nor by disasters, but by their own weakness of resolve. The moment doubt enters, the moment hesitation takes root, the moment the will wavers, defeat has already begun. Power, influence, survival, all are built upon the foundation of an iron will. Without it, nothing endures. With it, nothing can destroy you. An iron will is the discipline to stand unshaken when the ground beneath you trembles. It is the refusal to yield when others demand your submission. It is the strength to continue walking a chosen path, even when storms rise, even when betrayal strikes, even when you stand alone. Most men crumble under pressure because their will is soft, shaped by opinion, bent by rejection, shattered by hardship. They act with confidence when praised, but collapse when criticized. They fight with passion when followed, but abandon their cause when abandoned. Such men are ruled by the winds around them, never by the fire within them. The man of iron will is different. His decisions are forged not in comfort, but in conviction. He understands that opinions shift like shadows, loyalty changes like weather, and circumstances collapse without warning. Yet his course does not bend. He does not measure himself against applause or rejection, for both are equally meaningless to him. He does not ask permission to endure. He simply endures. His will is not a reaction to the world. It is a law he imposes upon himself. To build such a will requires war against the inner voice of weakness. This voice tells you to yield when resistance grows hard, to surrender when the burden feels heavy, to seek comfort when discipline demands pain. The soft man listens and obeys. The strong man silences it. Each time he refuses to yield, each time he pushes when others would rest, each time he chooses principle over comfort, his will hardens. Like metal in the forge, the more it is struck, the stronger it becomes. Iron is not forged in stillness, but in fire, and the will is no different. An iron will terrifies enemies because it cannot be manipulated. Threats lose their power when the target does not fear them. Bribes lose their attraction when the target cannot be bought. Persuasion fails when the target cannot be swayed. Most people can be moved with the right pressure, fear, money, or praise. But the man of unbreakable resolve is immovable. He listens, but he does not yield. He may adapt in strategy, but never in purpose. His enemies waste themselves in attempts to bend him, and when they realize he cannot be bent, they fear him more than they fear armies. Even allies grow cautious around an iron will, for they know that his loyalty is not blind, his conviction not negotiable. They may follow him, but they cannot command him. They may respect him, but they cannot control him. Such a man becomes both an anchor and a weapon. An anchor because others cling to his steadiness in storms, and a weapon because his unyielding path crushes opposition that wavers before him. Iron will is not loud. It does not shout, it does not boast, it does not announce itself. Its power lies in quiet endurance. While others rage at obstacles, the man of iron will moves forward step by step. While others despair at failure, he learns and continues. While others collapse under ridicule, he grows stronger in silence. His enemies expect him to falter. His persistence shatters their expectation. Over time, even the most stubborn opposition bows before the sheer inevitability of his endurance. But iron will is not stubbornness without thought. It is not the blind refusal to change in the face of reason. It is the ability to remain unshaken in conviction while still adapting tactics. The tree that refuses to bend in a storm is broken, but the mountain that shifts for no wind endures. The iron will knows when to bend in appearance without ever bending in essence. Strategy may shift like the river, but the course remains fixed like stone. An unshakable will also protects from despair, loss, betrayal, insult. These are weapons that destroy the weak not because of their existence, but because of how the weak respond. They sink into sorrow. They abandon their purpose. They let their pain dictate their direction. But the man of iron will feels the same pain, yet he does not let it decide for him. He takes the wound, absorbs it, and continues walking. His will is stronger than his suffering, and so his suffering becomes meaningless. The most dangerous man is not the one who strikes hardest, but the one who cannot be stopped. Time destroys the ambitious who lack endurance, but it only strengthens the one who endures beyond time. The iron-willed man outlasts his rivals, outlasts their schemes, outlasts their power. For in the end, all ambition, all deceit, all betrayal collapses against the immovable wall of a man who refuses to surrender. Strength does not come from luck, nor from the approval of others. It comes from within. When you master perception, detach from emotion, shield yourself with silence, guard your distance, and forge an iron will. The world will try to shake you, but when you carry these principles, you walk untouchable. You will not be ruled by insults, nor swayed by betrayal, nor broken by judgment. You will rise above the reach of ordinary men, feared by your enemies and respected by those who dare stand beside you. If you want to continue learning the hidden strategies that keep you unshaken in a world designed to break the weak, then stay with us. New stories, new lessons, and new truths await, each sharper than the last. Subscribe and let nothing and nobody affect you again.